Hello and welcome to another episode of Guyanese Swag, Trailblazing Voices. My name is Kate McKay. I am your host, and we bring you interviews from leaders across the diaspora who are shakers and movers in they feel getting things done, y'all. Today we have with us a model. She's in the running for Miss Caribbean UK 2023. Her name is Kate, and I'm really excited to have this conversation with her. How are you doing today, Kate?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Fine, thank you. I'm really excited and looking forward to this. I know that the people who watch this episode are going to be enlightened and hopefully rooting for you to win for 2023 as well.
Crossed.
So before we get started, I always ask every guest, first of all, where were you born?
I was born in England.
And what is your background or connection to Guyana?
So both my parents were born and raised in Guyana, along with my 4 older sisters. So that's my connection with the country, the culture, and the roots.
And how old were your parents when they left Guyana and went to the UK?
So his dad moved him over when he was 13. And my mum, she moved over when she was having me. So can't exactly quite remember that. Would do the maths, but maths isn't my strong suit.
Gotcha, no worries. And so as the first generation being born in England to Guyanese parents, what was your experience growing up in a Guyanese household?
It was definitely fun, of course. There's so much to love about the culture, but it was at times confusing with certain slang compared to UK slang. So certain words we would use would be completely different to words they would use in England, and going to school, saying stuff and then getting told that's not what it means, and then coming home and hearing it. It was very confusing at times in terms of the language that was used and meanings.
Gotcha.
So, on what's right and wrong.
Being what I call basically a hybrid, where you're like constantly camouflaging between these two cultures and trying to figure out, where do I fit in here? Where do I fit in there? What's the right way to say it here? What was the right way to say it there? Did you ever feel a sense or pressure of trying to fit in or trying to fit a certain mold?
I wouldn't say that there was any pressure, but at times, especially getting to the age of, I'd say 13, more in my adolescence, sometimes there was a sense of embarrassment when I'd use a word and I'd use it so confidently, but it means something completely different in the UK, and having my peers and someone say, kind of laugh at it and say that's not what it means, but always growing up learning that is the meaning for it. So sometimes just embarrassment, but not much. Would brush it off. It was okay, but no pressure necessarily.
As now being in the role that you're in and being a model, how did your childhood contribute to your decision to ultimately pursue modeling as a career?
So naturally, I always loved fashion, loved dressing up and just looking in the mirror and taking pictures. And when it comes to modeling, it is a lot about fashion and, of course, taking the photos. So I guess just being little and enjoying that side of things and seeing pretty dresses and celebrities and Barbie and Bratz and all those type of things, that definitely contributed to why I decided to pursue it.
Where did your inspiration for fashion come from? Was someone in your family into the fashion industry, or was it just purely entertainment or culture that it came from?
I would say that was purely entertainment. One of my sisters, when she was in her phase of going out, I would love to see her outfits. All of my sisters pretty much, actually. So being the youngest out of them and just seeing the way they would dress out for nights out and for events, I really liked it, and I guess that played a part too. But I would say majority of it was entertainment and what I saw on TV and just what I fell in love with.
When you made the decision to pursue modeling as a career, what was your parents' feedback about that? Were they open to it, or were they like, not at all?
They were definitely open to it. Yes, they were. At first, because I decided I really wanted to go for it about 13, 14. And at first it was, yeah, if you want to do it, go for it. But there was no sense of encouragement, I guess, because I was so young. Maybe they didn't really see the vision or the possibilities. But the older I got, that after I left college, about 16, and I really started to pursue it, they were definitely a lot more encouraging, especially now seeing what I'm doing with it and seeing that it is possible for me to be a model. I mean, I am one now. So when they started to see results, they started to see the possibilities.
When we or you or us as a society look at entertainment as a whole, I find that sometimes traditionally, because it's not, the entertainment industry doesn't have, like, for example, somebody who's a doctor, they come with benefits and all these other securities that being in the entertainment or modern industry doesn't necessarily come with, because in one way you're an entrepreneur and in another way you're an independent contractor, and at the same time you're kind of like in the gig industry. So it's like so many different combinations of things all in one, and trying to figure out, how do I take this thing and make it my own thing, at the same time making my own brand out of this. What were some of the struggles that you went through in trying to figure out, one, what your brand was, two, where you wanted to fit in that industry?
So at first, the beginning part would be the main struggle, because you need to build your experience and your portfolio, and it's very much just trying to grab every job or collaboration that you can get. So I was doing quite a few different types of modeling in the beginning. I was still doing fashion modeling, but there'll be commercial, there'll be just regular test shoots. And I would be modeling for photo shoots that I not necessarily wanted to do or didn't see myself really continuing doing in the future, but it was just for the experience. And then after I got my experience and was able to build a portfolio, that's when I rebranded myself as a editorial model. So now I do magazines and so on, and I am fashion focused. However, I still do commercial modeling, so I still model for brands and products, because I don't want to limit myself at the same time, but I want my full brand image to be a fashion model.
What was the thing that drew you to say, hey, I want to specifically focus on editorial modeling? Because again, that's, whenever we hear the word model or modeling, one would think like, oh, it's just like there's just this one sector. But for somebody who works in that industry, you know how big and how many different directions you can go in it. What was the thing for you that says, hey, I want to focus specifically in this niche, where I can go here and I can make money doing this, or I can go here and make money doing that, and all of it is still modeling, but if I focus primarily on editorial modeling, this is where I feel like I can be the best asset and I get the most value for myself?
So, like you said, being able to focus on one aspect, that is a very important part, because in the beginning, again, I was spreading myself out in different categories of modeling, and there wasn't a sense of passion for each of those. When it came to the fashion based ones or anything to do that was quite creative, there was passion there for that. But the other ones were just another day, just building myself up. So again, always loving fashion, I decided editorial is what I want to go for. And seeing models in magazines and in adverts, those models were the models that made me want to be a model. So I pursued that specific sector of modeling, being editorial, and it allowed me to be more focused on it. And I also saw that a lot of successful models have their specific category when it comes to modeling. They do dibble and dabble around in different types of modeling, but you have the specific category so that you can focus on it and you can push yourself more for that one category. Because you start spreading yourself out too much, you're only given 50 here, 40% here, 20% there, when you want to go 100% to do your best.
I want to circle back to something you said earlier. Starting out and realizing that, hey, I don't have experience in this industry and I want to get to a certain place in the industry, but in order for me to get there, I first have to crawl before I can walk. So I'm going to take on these different sectors or these different genres of modeling so that I can get the experience. Sometimes a person might feel like, hey, I don't want to do that because it's not necessarily what I want to do in the long run. Or they might even say, I don't even have the experience to do it. And that knowledge of I don't have the experience discourages some people. Whereas you said, I might not have the experience, but I'm willing to try these different things to build up a portfolio so that I can have the experience. Where did that discipline come from, and how did you use it then to say, not to get distracted? Because obviously once you started to do all these different types of modeling, I'm sure some of them paid less, some of them paid more, and it probably was easier to say like, hey, this genre of modeling pays more money, let me go in this direction. But you choose to stay disciplined to what it was that you wanted to do in the beginning.
So as I said, I wanted to be a model from around 13 or 14, and being young and having hopes, I tried to go for it, just applying for agencies. And then, you know, you get declined, it happens. But being so young, I was like, okay, we'll try again in the future. I tried again around 16, I'd say. Then I didn't put in enough time and effort into it. And I kind of just was like, this is a long process. Let me just push it to the side. We'll do it again in the future. So the third time round is when I really said, you know what, if I don't really pursue it and really put my foot down and stay determined with it, I'm never going to end up doing it, because it's a long process. You got a lot of no's. It's difficult finding jobs. And again, building that experience is hard, which is why I was like, grab this job, grab that job, because you're not going to do it forever. You're not going to do all the photo shoots you don't like doing, or not that you don't like. I mean, I loved every shoot I did. I really did. But you're not going to do the photo shoots that you don't have a passion for forever. But it's for now. And it was mainly just because of how many times I tried to start modeling and then I didn't, because of how long the journey was, or because I felt as if I wasn't getting anywhere. And in all honesty, I wasn't, because I wasn't putting enough time and energy. So now that I am, which I mean, now that I began to, is where we got into getting into all the different types of photo shoots and types of modeling.
You're in an industry where you basically have to eat no's for breakfast. Like, you get a lot of no's before you get a yes. How does that, one, how do you deal with all the no's? And two, how do you sustain your confidence in yourself? When you get so many no's, and then having to go back in the mirror and say, hey, that no doesn't mean that I'm not good enough. It just means that opportunity wasn't for me. How do you keep that balance?
So it's definitely harder in the beginning, but with research, when you start to actually learn about the modeling industry, it becomes easier. So in regards to agencies, I applied so many, a lot. And I actually learned that when it comes to agencies, they have different seasons. So sometimes when an agency says no to you, it's not because of how you look, but it's because for December through till March, they're only accepting applicants that are plus sized. Sometimes they're only accepting petite models, or they're looking for specific ethnicities. So learning that agencies have seasons, for one, makes getting a no from them a lot easier, because you can just easily tell yourself, okay, maybe I'm not the type of model they're looking for this season, and that's fine. And then you also realize how many other people want to be a model and how many other people are applying to these agencies at the same time. So it's not necessarily yourself, but it's about your competition too. And you just have to remind yourself that you can do it without agency. I think for me, that was the biggest thing, because I felt an agency was what you needed to be a successful model, whereas you can be a freelance model and be successful as well. So I think you just have to remember that it's not you. Just because you hear a no doesn't mean that you can't do it. And I think because I've heard no so many times, but I've stayed determined and see where I am now, it teaches you that no doesn't mean no completely for the whole industry.
Facing the rejections and then coming back and saying, hey, I'm not going to take these as I'm not good enough. I'm simply going to rewrite that story and tell myself something else. This is not the season. This isn't an opportunity for me. And then ultimately making the decision to say, you know what, I feel like I can do this without an agency and I can be independent. That's taking control of your career. And being in that position where you're a freelancer, now you're balancing with both the business administration side of it, and then because you have to find the work for yourself and then you have to go out and do the work. How do you keep the balance between those two things, and how do you determine where and how you delegate your time?
So it is hard. I mean, now I would definitely love an agency. I mean, you always kind of would love to have an agency because in that way you're not doing everything yourself. I don't actually have a way that I actually delegate the time. It's pretty much just whenever I feel as if I have a free moment, I search for different modeling jobs, and it's just because of how much I want to do it. It's more difficult when I'm booked back to back, so I can have shoots every weekend for about 3 or 4 weeks, and then you have a full-time job, you have modeling, and then recently I have started my own shoe brand, so it can be very difficult to juggle, but you kind of get used to it. And I think if you enjoy it a lot, it makes it a lot easier for you because you have a passion for it, you know that's what you want to do. But for myself, it was just finding a free time to manage all of it. As soon as I get a free moment, I'm on it, even tired times too.
Taking your career to a next level and saying that, hey, I'm not just going to model, I'm not just going to stick in this industry, but I'm also going to multiply my streams of income, and now going into the industry of owning your own shoe brand. What was the inspiration for the shoe brand, and please tell us more about it?
So for the shoe brand, since I was in school, always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, something fashion related. At first, I wanted to have a streetwear brand, and then had a change of mind because the older I got, the more I fell in love with class and elegancy. And I wanted my brand to be something that would represent that and give a sense of exclusivity. And I began to love heels. I mean, I've always loved heels actually since I was young, always loved them. So currently my shoe brand is just heels at the moment, but I do want to introduce men formal footwear as well. So the inspiration for that was just wanting to give something that could one day be designer, same level as Gucci, for example. And it was hard. It takes a lot of consistency, and that was the difficult part. And being able to stick on top of my modeling, stick on top of looking for jobs and bettering my portfolio, whilst also communicating with manufacturers, doing research, and actually creating my shoes itself was difficult. And now the marketing process while sticking on top of modeling, and now the beauty pageant, and just my regular 9 to 5 too, is hard. But again, for me, my shoe brand is something that I want to be a long-term career. I want it to be something that I no longer need to work because I have my shoe brand and I have my modeling. So when it comes to those two things, even though it can be demotivating sometimes, I feel as if I'm overwhelmed or I'm too stressed, I just picture the end goal, and that's what I shoot for. That's what I keep working for.
Is the shoe brand publicly available now, or are you still in the process of development?
So it's now publicly available, yes.
Okay. Oh, it is?
It is, yes.
Where and how can one find it, purchase, support?
So the brand is called Ms. Yvette, and it's available. You can see it on Instagram at ms.yvetteco. And right now, currently, it's not up for sale. We haven't launched just as yet, but it's available just so people can see what we're coming with soon.
Got it. And now being full-blown entrepreneur mode, business owner mode, what were some of the learning curves that you had in that process of going from freelancer to now business owner?
Right now, I feel as if the only thing I've really learned is to stay consistent and be resilient, and it doesn't happen overnight. That was something I had to keep on my head at all times, because especially when it comes to marketing and wanting to build a following is very difficult. So it would feel as if sometimes I'm not getting anywhere, but it's just constantly reminding myself it doesn't happen overnight, it doesn't happen overnight. And thankfully, I can look at my modeling to help me think of that as well, because the modeling didn't happen overnight. And I'm still not where I want to be with modeling, but I see myself growing. And I kind of use that for my business as well.
Who or what are some of your inspirations that help you to stay focused in the moments where it feels like this isn't happening or it's not happening fast enough?
Definitely my mum and my dad. They are hard workers, and I've heard so many stories. I mean, they've told me so many stories about where they've started from and now and what they have today. And it takes faith. My mum definitely taught me that, and she reminds me of that. It takes faith because you can't give up when it gets difficult. And I've seen her go through that. I've heard her go through that. And I wear that around with me. Along with my dad, he started from a basic, I think he used to like fix TVs and so on when he first moved to the UK. And now he's a lawyer. So it takes hard work and determination. You just have to keep going. That's what they've taught me. So when it gets difficult and when I feel stressed, I think about my parents, and I think they did it and they had so much more on their plate than I did. So I can definitely do it. And I think I'm a product of their creation. So the two of them equals me. And if they did that on their own individually, what can I do?
Being in a role now where you have become an icon, you've become an inspiration and motivation in paving the way for the next generation, what are some of the lessons that you would like to leave with the next generation?
Oh, some of the lessons. Again, I'm going to mention faith, because that is so important. If you don't have faith in yourself, there's no room for determination or resilience, because you don't believe that you're going to get anywhere. So definitely keep faith, especially during the hard times. And another lesson, I would say stay determined as well, and take time. Take time would be my biggest lesson, actually, because like I said earlier, it doesn't happen overnight. And the things that matter the most take time. I feel that as if there's no other way to explain it, but you just have to be patient. That's it. You need to be patient and just trust that the work you're putting in now is going to lead to the result you want to have.
I love it. On that note, we're going to take a quick break for a message from today's sponsor, and we'll be right back.
Meet Kim. She recently moved to a new neighborhood and has a craving for pine tart and cheese rolls. She Googled Guyanese restaurants in her neighborhood and received recommendations for Ghanaian restaurants instead. While she was at the park walking, her dog Kim ran into Susan, a fellow Guyanese, who introduced her to the Guyanese Swag Business Directory, a comprehensive listing of reputable Guyanese-owned businesses across the diaspora. Kim now regularly visits the GuyaneseSwag.net, where she can easily find trusted and reliable Guyanese-owned businesses and stay updated on upcoming events throughout the diaspora. Since the directory offers detailed business profiles, including pictures, videos, specials, contact information, and even reviews from neighbors, Kim is able to stay connected to her roots in her new home away from home. Register your business for free by visiting GuyaneseSwag.net.
And welcome back. We're here today with Kate. She is a model and running for Miss Caribbean UK 2023. We were really in a really good conversation, and I'm looking forward to the second half of the conversation. Kate, for those who don't know what Miss Caribbean UK is, enlighten us.
So Miss Caribbean UK is a beauty pageant that's all about promoting the Caribbean in a positive light. And it's about spreading more knowledge of Caribbean cultures within the UK.
What was your purpose or reason for joining the pageant?
So for me, my reason was for more growth and recognition, and to spread light on the positives of migration of Caribbeans to the UK as well, and knowledge about it, and to encourage people to work hard for what they want to go for and show people in Britain what Caribbeans can do and what we're all about.
You said something very important, shedding light on the positive things that can come from migration. what were some of the positive things that you experienced in your own life? And second to that, what are some of the general positive things that you feel are essential or come from migration?
So for me in my own life, again, I'm gonna mention family again. Family is a big thing to me. But one of my sisters, so she was born and raised in Guyana, and she moved over to here, moved over to England, and she's quite a big athlete, currently living in Dubai. So I feel by her coming over to the UK, she got the opportunity to take this skill that she had that was so natural to her, running, racing, and make it into part of her career. She's been on TV, she's done British championships. So it's great to see that for me. And all of my sisters as well, actually, they've made a lot out of the opportunities they've been given in England. And I think it's just all about using your opportunities. I mean, anywhere you go in the world, you have to work hard to actually get far. But when you're given the opportunity, it's about actually grabbing onto it and working with it. And in regards to the essentials of migration would be culture. It's a big thing, food, events, and when it comes to music, movies, books, charities, art galleries, all of that, I think is really important because it spreads knowledge, and it's good to learn about other cultures, other Caribbean cultures outside of the Caribbean as well, because it shows the people that originated in the country that you, for example, migrate to. It shows how you can add to their lives, add to their environment, because they always end up loving it too. They always end up using a piece of it anyway. So it's just making sure that you can root it wherever you can, so it sticks around.
You said another thing that I want to tap into. The value that one adds when they migrate somewhere. I think that sometimes migration as a whole, it takes so much out of you because you're leaving so much behind to start from scratch. And sometimes that transition is so hard that it's like losing a piece of you to like be reborn in a way. And sometimes you get like so caught up in all of the nitty-gritty little details that go into that. And just life as a whole, that one might not always see the value that they're adding. And even sometimes when people think about migrating, it's always the conversation is always, what can I get from this migration? Oh, I'm moving here to get a better job. I'm moving here for better healthcare. I'm moving here for better opportunities. But the way that you just explained that, the value that you're also adding to that environment, where did you get that perspective from? And when did you realize like, hey, this migration thing, it isn't just about you getting something, you're also giving something?
So I learned that actually when I joined the beauty pageant. I was doing research, I was looking for different Caribbean brands, Guyanese brands specifically. And I came across multiple brands, but two brands stuck out to me. And one of them is a South London brand of the Guyanese owner. And they really touched on how the Caribbean culture, as well as the African culture too, has made a big change in South London. So in the UK, South London is a large part of London that is full of Caribbean culture. And it really shows that if it was not for Caribbean migration, South London wouldn't have the culture it has today. It wouldn't have the shops it has, the clothes, the market, being able to get snacks that you can only get in the Caribbean. You wouldn't have that opportunity. So it's really created a mini home for Caribbeans. And that's starting to spread all across London as well. So when I started the beauty pageant and researching, that's when I learned that actually not only do we migrate for a better life, but we add to the environment we move to.
I love that so much. For people who watch pageant or modeling and they somewhat have a perspective of, oh, it's just a beauty thing, or it's just about showing off your looks. Speak to that in terms of what pageant really adds in terms of the value that's far beyond a person's look?
So it's really about knowledge and what you can do as a person and what you can do for your community. Of course, the whole beauty being in the name of it, like you said, a lot of people just think it is fully based on beauty, but beauty is actually not a winning factor for the pageant at all. It's about what you support, how you support it, and how much you're willing to do for it, and how much energy and time you're willing to put into it. So it's a lot about that, a lot about knowledge, like I said, and being able to spread the knowledge, being able to know how to get people involved and actually teach people. It's easy to, for example, read a fact to a person, but are they going to pay any attention? Are they going to then take that fact and want to learn more on their own? That's what it's all about too.
We're going to speak this into existence. So when you become Miss Caribbean UK 2023, what are some of your goals?
One of them is to definitely spread more love and joy in the Caribbean community in the UK. It sounds cheesy, but honestly, that is what I would love to do. And there's a few Guyanese events that happen annually as well in the UK, and I would love to add to that more. I would love to have events that are more inclusive of all Caribbean countries as well. And I would like to spread, again, knowledge. It's probably going to be one of my top 3 used words in this interview. But knowledge to people that aren't Caribbean, and I want them to realize how much our culture affects them in a positive way. And because I truly believe that there are certain things or certain shops or foods or music they love to listen to, but they really don't know the meaning to it, or they don't understand the importance of it or the importance to us. And I would love for them to learn that so they can become more in touch with the Caribbean side of things.
What are some of your strategies for how you plan to execute, even just spreading more knowledge or more love for Caribbean culture?
So for one, it'll be working with event organizers, Caribbean event organizers. One of them is the GUSDA, and they're the Guyana UK Social Development Association. So they're already charitable organizers, and they started off mainly just for promoting sports in Guyana and for Guyanese people as well in the UK. And they do a lot of the Guyanese events. So working with them, working with the Guyana High Commission in the UK for the cases of teaching people about our culture and helping Guyana as much as I can from here. So it'd be a lot about working with other people and working with different brands, businesses and organizers in any way that I can contribute as someone representing Guyana and the Caribbean.
For the person who's watching this interview or listening to this audio, and they might be inspired by you and say, hey, I want to follow in Kate's footstep. I want to become a model. I want to start my own shoe brand. I want to become the next Miss anything, Miss Guyana, Miss UK, Miss Worldwide, Miss really anything. What are some action steps that they should be taking right now to position them for that? That's the first part of that question. And the second part is, what are some things that they should be doing that when they get into that role that they don't get stuck in that role, but then also evolve, like using that role as an opportunity to evolve to an even greater role?
So for one, for positioning yourself, I would say plan as much as you can, look at different avenues, because the first route you take may not necessarily work and you don't want that to put you down. You want to be able to say, okay, I tried this. I have this method now that I can try. So just plan and plan. Short-term planning as well as long-term planning as well is very useful. That's how I got here. And in regards to the second question, if you mind reminding me of the second part, please.
Oh, absolutely. Once a person gets into a role of anything that they achieve, whether it's becoming an entrepreneur, model, or any role that they set out and say, hey, I want to achieve this role, and they achieve it, to not get complacent, but also to keep moving forward so that they can ascend and do even greater things.
So to always remember that there's more to achieve. When you get to one point or you've achieved one objective or goal, remember that there's more you can do with that. And it's even better when you've achieved previous goals that you've set for yourself, because you can then apply the things you've learned. And for example, apply your new skill set or your new recognition. You may now have a following or an audience now. You can now use your new resources to do something new, to do something different, something bigger as well. And that's going to help you grow even more. There's no end when it comes to the top. That's how I like to think.
As someone who used the modeling industry in a very positive manner, in the day and age of social media, we obviously see it very publicly where people use the same tools of modeling in a negative connotation and use it to promote negativity, but you found a way to make it positive for yourself. What are some words of encouragement you would like to share to the world, to the next generation, to how to use the industry for positive and for promoting positive opposed to negatives?
I would say, for one, always be creative when it comes to modeling. So for myself, it isn't just about looks and dresses and outfits, but it's about being able to make someone's idea a reality. When it comes to modeling, a lot of people, for example, you work with fashion designers, photographers, they always have a picture in their head, they have a notion, and you get to be a part of that. You get to be the one that actually makes it a reality as well. So to just remember that there's a big creative side to it. It isn't just about looks. That would be the one way to think about it, so that you can do the best that you can do in the modeling industry in a positive way. Because as soon as you start thinking it's only looks, I mean, looks play a big part, in all honesty. I think it is the modeling industry. However, you have to look at the other aspects of it as well.
My follow-up question to that is, with social media being the way it is now, where it has really become a really gigantic marketing tool, and to the point where now social media is also paying content creators to create and to promote, it's easier or more tempting, I would say, that people would create things that get more likes or more follows, just for clickbait, for the sake of making a dollar. How do you maintain your principles to say, hey, I could do this to make money, or I could do this for clickbait, but I'm going to maintain my principles and say, even though I can make money doing this, I would prefer not to, because it's not in line with my principles?
So whenever it comes to anything that I feel isn't me or I wouldn't be comfortable doing, I just remember that I've been putting in so much effort already. Why sell myself short now? And thinking about just having patience. And so many people, like you said, go for the whole clickbait thing. That's not going to make you stand out. If you just stay consistent and keep working, you're eventually going to get to where you want to be. Don't take any shortcuts, because there's no true meaning in that. You wouldn't have learned a lot from it. If you take a longer route, you can come across so many other opportunities that are going to be way more beneficial than just saying, okay, let me do this one job. Not to say as if it's a completely bad thing if you're comfortable in your skin doing anything for clickbait, for example. Go ahead, no one's here to stop you. No one should judge you either. I think that's a big thing too. Never feel afraid to be judged. That's one thing in the modeling industry. You will be judged. Everyone has different tastes and opinions, but just remain comfortable in your skin.
I love it. To bring the conversation full circle, I obviously could not let you leave without asking you. You are someone who have a really high standard for fashion, for the industry. What are some tips or feedback you would give to the person who's looking at this video and they're like, I really like Kate's style, and I love how she pursues the elegance? What are some everyday tips that one could use to spruce up their wardrobe, their outfit, just to add a little glamour into their day-to-day life?
For one, anything that makes you feel confident, get it. Whether it's a bag, a necklace, a dress, I would say definitely get it, because confidence is key. And when you have the confidence, your outfit isn't wearing, you aren't wearing your outfit. What's the saying actually? I forgot the saying. But basically the saying is that the attention isn't just on your outfit, but it's on you as well when you walk into a room. So definitely anything that you feel gives you confidence, go ahead and buy it. Other than that, I don't have many tips other than confidence. I think that's all where it comes from for myself. We all have different tastes and so on. So anything you think is gorgeous, go ahead and wear it. Don't be afraid to be judged, or don't be afraid that people are going to look at you. That's another thing too. And that's why you need confidence, because it's a good thing when people look at you. It means you look good, and you should feel good that you look good.
I love it. I love it. On that note, we're going to bring this conversation to a full circle. Kate, I really appreciate you spending time with us and sharing your wisdom with us. For those who are watching this, listening to this, and they want to connect with you, they want to support what you're doing, how can they connect with you and support what you're doing?
So you can connect with me on my personal Instagram page, which is MSXKate, Kate. And if you do want to check out my shoe brand, that would be great. And that would be at ms.yvette.co. So I'm up for any collaborations, any questions.
I love it. We're going to make sure that we add all those links that Kate mentioned in the description of this video and the podcast so that you guys can connect with her and support her shoe brand. What date should they be looking for the Miss Caribbean UK pageant, and how can they stream and connect with that as well?
So the grand finals will be on the 28th of October. There will be more details. So I will be posting more information about that on my personal Instagram page too. In regards to streaming, I'm not sure if the pageant will be having it up available to stream. I believe so. If not, hopefully they will have the full video available on YouTube, which I'll be sharing after the grand finals as well.
I love it. Thank you for that, Kate. We really appreciate you stopping by and sharing your time with us. For those of you who've watched this video, you've heard Kate yourself, go ahead and click the links in the description to connect with her. Give this video a thumbs up, and as always, please drop us a comment to let us know how Kate has inspired you. Thank you guys for hanging out with us today. Go ahead and have yourself a phenomenal day. Peace.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell.